series for the semester. This is Mr. Bill Leach. He is currently the CIO and a vice president at our neighbors down the street, First Guaranty Bank. And he is going to talk to us today about the role of CIO in digital banking. I thought this would be a really timely and interesting presentation for all of us. So he's been working with First Guaranty Bank since about 2022, and his responsibilities include overseeing the bank's technology infrastructure and driving digital transformation initiatives. He's worked in information technology, information assurance, cybersecurity, compliance, and audit since around 1986, starting with the U.S. Navy in electronic warfare. And his expertise is primarily in enterprise architecture, IT, service management, information assurance, cybersecurity, and he's working in various industries, including banking and finance, healthcare, government, and technology. So really kind of some impressive degrees. I know you guys will have some interesting questions for him. And he also holds an advanced degree in computer science and cybersecurity. So without further ado, I'm going to let him take the stage and enlighten us on the role of CIO in digital banking.
All right, thank you. Thank you. It's a beautiful Thursday, I think it is. The days, the weeks fly by, but this is a beautiful building that y'all here have on campus. And, you know, again, thank you for inviting me. And before I get started, can anybody, is this an interactive group? I know this is virtual plus you all in this room. So, all right. So what do you think digital banking is all about? Because I get into digital banking and blah, 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 blah. But what does that really mean to you? Huh? You don't have to hold your wallet. That's good. What else do you think of digital banking? Because the role of CIO in digital banking. And back. Okay, that's good. Anybody else? Okay. Yes.
I'll say that probably some amount of stress over managing the transaction, making sure that you're and complete.
Right.
Would be a big head for digital banking.
Yes. So, you know, the banking industry is highly regulated. We have our friend, the FDIC. They show up, the examiners show up every year and a half, and they're looking through everything to make sure we're doing everything in a secure, reliable way so that your data, your money is protected. But in digital banking, that's more of the risk area that we get into, because I think I hear convenience. I don't have to have it in my wallet. You know, I can do everything on a mobile device. Everything is, you know, this digital transformation wave that we hear about. You know, I've been hearing about it for decades now. The digital transformation can mean a lot of different things. But at the bank, digital transformation means that we're doing less paper and more online transactions. And it's empowering our customers with their money. You know, having access to their money. Hey, I want to create a checking account. I want to create an account for my kids. I can do it. Or I want to apply for a loan. The traditional route, I go in, I meet with somebody, shake hands. Hey, how you doing? Fill out paper, and then maybe a week or two later, I have a decision and hopefully a loan or a check. Nowadays, how long does it take to apply for a loan and get results? It could be minutes to have you're approved. Within a day or so, it's electronically transferred into your account. I mean, that's what people, this Gen Z, who's Gen Z in here? And I don't get into the generational things. I'm like right outside the baby boomers. I'm 55, so I'm, you know, I'm not quite a baby boomer, but I'm not quite in that, you know. So, but I think I hear Gen Z very impatient. I want it now. Yeah, I want it at my fingertips. If I can't get a loan like that, I'm going somewhere else. So that puts a lot of pressure on a CIO. and everyone at the bank. How can we service our customers in a way that's, that meets their requirements? Now, we still have old school people like brick and mortar. I want to open a door. I want to smell the bank. I'm going to come in, shake hands. How are you doing? I'm here to sit down, have a cup of coffee, talk about things. We have those customers, and that's what they want. That's what they feel comfortable with. If, God forbid, somebody wants to do a bank run, they have a target. In the virtual world, how does that happen? I don't know. So I just want to kind of get you thinking, get your brain working, because I don't like reading from slides. These slides are kind of a placeholder for certain things. If you have a question on any of the bullets, stop me, and I'll be more than happy to dig a little deeper. Now, do we have a hard stop at 30 minutes? Yeah, just kind of wave me off if. And that's so my mouth doesn't dry out and I'm just spitting cotton up here. So the introduction, and I have my notes here. Let me see if I can, so I'm not holding on to them. Put them right here. Introduction. So we're going to talk about, not really discuss deep discussion, but we're going to touch on trends and innovations in digital banking, the role of the CIO in digital banking. So Chief Information Officer has taken so many different forms. Some people think the Chief Information Officer, you're that IT guy that gets, or gal that keeps our computers running, and you're the one we blame for everything that goes wrong in the concerning, the IT equipment. And CIO can mean a lot of different things, but I like to go back to Chief Information Officer, information. So, information, lifeblood of the organization. This is something that, it has real value. It's an asset. It's an asset for the bank. It's an asset for our customers. So that's something I try to focus on. I used to be a Chief Information Security Officer. I spent most of my time, I met Dr. El-Kadi many years ago, and I was still in the Navy and doing security stuff. So, life has some turns in it, and I'm glad to be a CIO. But back when I was a Chief Information Security Officer, okay, information security, InfoSec, but now Chief Information Officer, let's focus on the information. Let's focus on the secrecy or the confidentiality, integrity, availability. That's what we're focusing on for our customers, making sure they have access to their data. So if they can't get access to it, that is also a security concern. Key challenges and solutions, the future of digital banking, and a conclusion, which is just opening it up for questions. So the vision statement, I came up with our own vision statement for our IT department. I used to own a company. I retired from the Navy, and I wanted to live the dream or the nightmare of small business owner. You get all these benefits, veteran, okay, come on, you're head of the line. No, you're head of the line, that long line back there at the end of it. But gone through the ups and downs, and I wouldn't trade it for anything, because I do have a PhD with honors in what not to do. I've learned a lot of hard lessons and what not to do. And I think that has some value, learning what not to do. But I like to look at it from a business standpoint. Okay, what is our mission? But first, a vision. This is a general direction we're always heading. So the one that I came up with for the First Guaranty Bank is empowering financial success and growth for our community, since we're a community bank, through innovative, secure, and personalized digital banking experiences seamlessly integrating with everyday life. So we are a community bank. We are a small community bank aspiring to be a medium-sized community bank. But the one thing our Chief Executive Officer, he puts our customers first. He wants our doors to be open, even during COVID. He kept the bank open as much as possible. And his office is right by the tellers. So you go in, you do your stuff with his bank is right, or his office is right there. He likes to be in the thick of things. So that's a great thing for me in community banking, because in this digital age, it's a little frightening that I have everything that I own out there somewhere. And I don't know if y'all kept up with some of the, I don't know, was it Bank of America, where people's money wasn't in the accounts? It was either removed or didn't show up. I didn't go dive in too deep into the details, but there are lines of people wondering, where's my money? And, you know, for us to have a presence, not only virtually, but physically, I think it's reassuring that I have a place to go. And sometimes you apply for a loan, they may have something stupid in your credit report or something that you want a human to talk to say, hey, look, I want to explain this. And then they can discuss whether they're going to approve the loan or not, versus I put it through that real convenient process to be told no. And I call the office somewhere and they say, oh, well, that's just it. You know, I'm sorry. I've been with y'all for 30 years. There was a $2 charge on my account. I didn't know it was there, and it reported it late, and it may trigger their risk, you know, their risk score. Now you don't qualify for a loan. But Community Bank is making sure that we're in touch with our customers and that they have what they need to better manage their money. Thank you. So I have a list of digital banking services, include things like account management, funds transfers, bill payments, mobile banking. That's a big one. So can a young, bright mind in here tell me more about mobile banking? What you love or maybe what you don't like about it?
I enjoy the accessibility to see account data, website, and it'd be really easy to follow the see how much I have to account.
Right. It's convenience. I can see it. I can manage it. Real-time updates. Not some batch process that 2 days later, I'm like, oh, I forgot about that, and I'm negative. You know, just making sure that I have access to my financial records. Online loan applications, digital wallets, investment services, and so forth. So trends and innovations, mobile first banking. Smartphone adoption continues to rise. So, I mean, these devices we carry around, do we ever part with them? Even when we go to bed, I don't know, probably some people are buried with them, you know, put it in the coffin. Like, these are permanent pieces that we always carry around. But when it comes to banking, you know, people like that convenience. A wallet, having it in your smartphone. However, we touched on some conveniences and likes of the mobile. But what are some of the challenges that you can think of from a data standpoint? Challenges. Well, there's the security side of things always. And that takes not only having the right controls in place to protect the information, but also, you know, it's about empowering the people who bank with us, making them aware, fraud alerts, that kind of thing, which can be a pain because you make a charge, it doesn't recognize, and it shuts your card down. But how about disparity of systems? So you have all the legacy systems that hold all the records. Our core banking system, for example, is an AS400 mainframe. We have that. It's highly structured, third normal form, and very efficient. But then we have other applications that have to interact with that core banking system. So one of the challenges is not having open systems. So having a closed system is like we don't have the interfaces. So what is a common interface that we use today? I mean, something you would think that you would use to get two systems talking to each other. Huh? Well, not just internet, but back-end integration. If I want to interface with a system, we can interface with the database, application, programming interface, API, just being able to connect one system to the other. Being able to bring data into a context that is not only meaningful for the customers, but also those who work for the bank. That's probably one of the biggest challenges we face today. Yes? Now, we don't have our own DevOps, but we're growing so that we're heading in that direction. Right now, we're using a product called MuleSoft, and it's like an API bridge. It's an integrator. Pre-built APIs that are reusable. We have FIS Horizon, which is our core banking system. So we have what they call Code Connect. They have APIs that we can use. So for most of the, I'd say use the good old 80-20 rule. Probably 80% of what we need is already pre-built, and we can use those. But not having our own DevOps puts us at a disadvantage. So then you get into the vendor management side of things. Contracting with a company where, you know, like MuleSoft, for example, their going rate, and I'm in the wrong business, but their going rate per hour is like $420 an hour for a developer, for an architect. The negotiated rate is less than that, but still a lot of money. But how do we get to the point where we can take it in-house where it's cost feasible? You know, and what is the return on that? So there's risk involved on the front end to get all this stuff connected together. But no, we don't. And we outsource the hosting of our banking system to an organization, FISC, F-I-S-C, up in West Monroe, and they maintain a lot of it. But then you have the impediments in how to get to the data, from reporting to how can we bring a new product into the mix and connect it into our core banking system. So that's a lot of what we're chewing on right now and trying to break out of it. And then, so open banking API. So that's part of, you know, for a CIO, I have to have a different strategy. So anyone we do business with, they have to have an open architecture. It has to be an open system. We have to have APIs that we don't have to pay for. And that's another thing. You get into the contracts after the fact, all the other charges. Oh, you want to connect to this? Well, we'll come back to you with a quote. You got $20, $30, $50,000 later, and it's like, you know, that adds up. Artificial intelligence. Can anybody tell me, in your own words, what you think AI is?
Basically, that's not I can put scheme helpers. So you give it some names that helpers, you know, just generating outputs.
Okay. So artificial intelligence, this is non-human intervention. This is something, whether it's an algorithm or it's, you know, I'm not an expert in AI. I know that's where everybody wants to get to, but I like to get the house in order first, have the foundation where it needs to be, and then from a data standpoint, you know, looking at data cleanup, being able to categorize things properly so that we can bring it into reporting so that it's more meaningful, because you can have the best dashboards in the world, but if you don't have it structured the way, you know, properly, it's junk, garbage in, garbage out. So there's a lot that has to be done within the database, the cleansing of the data, and then going from normalized to denormalized data, and like a data lake, for example, and being able to do things like AI and other tools and applications. But AI is the big thing. I think Elon Musk came out saying we got to slow things down. I don't know if it's going to be like a Terminator situation 10 years from now, where it's becomes self-aware and takes over all of the all the weapon systems. But I think it would be remiss of me as a CIO to ignore it. But first, it's getting our house in order and making sure that, you know, whatever we need to service our customers, it's set up the right way and so forth. Biometric authentication, that goes into security. So that would be one of you know, when you get into multi-factor authentication, biometrics is something, you know, and I think we already have, I know we have that on our phones right now. You just put your face there and boom, you're in. But biometrics as it relates to the banking systems is something that we're always looking at. Data analytics and personalization of the information. You know, data analytics is very important, but you have to have the right people doing the analysis. IT people can only go so far. One of the many things I committed to as an IT department is to learn more about banking. So to get more in the business side, because we just can't be vanilla flavored IT people making sure the computers are running and everybody's happy. No, we have to understand what their day-to-day needs are and get to the level where, we understand, we understand where they're coming from, and we can be more proactive. Robotic process automation, bots. Can anybody tell me an advantage of a bot? And if you don't know what a bot is, it's like a fancy macro. Automate simple tasks, sure. And people from a money standpoint, what took this person 4 hours to do, a bot can do in minutes. And if you calculate, an average payroll per hour and do the math, people like seeing that. We're going to save all this money. What are some of the disadvantages of bots? Customer service, that is definitely one. How about the workers? Hey, help us identify all the processes we can automate, and we're going to put it all together, and we're all going to live happily ever after. What do you think most of those people, what do you think is going through their minds? Yeah. The death grip on their station right there, and lack of cooperation. So I'm not saying that bots are bad, but I don't think it's the panacea. It's not the cure-all for everything. It's not, because another thing is there's too many moving targets on the front end. The file may be dropped in a different folder. The file name may change. An update may be pushed to the system where it has to log into, and so forth and so on. So there's so many areas or parts that can break, and it takes a lot to keep them going. But if set up properly and where it makes sense, I think it frees people up to do more meaningful tasks. And I think that's one way of selling it. People who are innovative and see a way to have automation showing how it saves the bank money, then they participate in that. And then the assurance from leadership that, no, we're not here to replace your job. Cloud computing, I think everybody really knows, does anybody here not understand cloud computing and the challenges or the rewards? The thing that scares me, though, is let's move everything to the cloud. Yay, we're going to the cloud. We're going to, and, maybe it's a conspiracy type of thinking that takes over, but like, what if that just went away? What if something happened where I could not act? I mean, everything we are is in a cloud, like AWS, Azure, and it's gone. What do you do? It's like you don't exist anymore. And I think that's a conversation a lot of people are not having. Maybe there are people out there in their think tanks going through it, but that, how much do we retain so that as a part of business continuity, we can flip the switch and say, no, we're going to open the doors and people are going to continue to have access to their money. And then cybersecurity and data privacy. Cybersecurity, it's ransomware is probably one of the greater pains. I don't know, the CIO here at Southeastern, I mean, does that, if you had to list what keeps you up the most at night?
You may not be aware of.
Oh, I am.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah.
And I'm not meaning to pick on you, but.
So yeah, exactly. The thing that you said.
Okay.
I wasn't sure if you said it.
So it's easy to get out there. It's so easy. There are services out there that will build the ransomware packages that you can launch. You can even have online support, customer service, as they pay for the malicious packages. But it's easy to deploy, and the return on it can be great. Yeah, I used to be a VP of cybersecurity at a managed security service provider, and 2 big hospitals went down, and we were pulled into that. It's a mess. It's a nightmare. That's something, but it's always there. Cybersecurity. It's we have a great CISO, and when I transitioned to the CIO, and I saw the look on his face, we have a CTO also, as a chief technology officer. I kind of elbowed him. I said, "Yeah, that's the look I used to have." That kind of the weight of the world that comes on you, and you're like, because it's just nonstop. But yeah, but do y'all have a CISO?
We, as part of what we will be changing, we'll be introducing, probably a practical system. That's something that we have to fix. We have lots of questions about how your CTO, the CIO, assist our roles.
Well, if ever you want to come down the street, we'd be more than happy to, if you want to just have questions or because we are very, banking industry, financial industry, highly regulated. I'm more familiar with healthcare, so there's a lot of that also. And I had clients that were high trust certified, which is kind of the gold standard, and over 1,000 security controls, physical, administrative, and technical. And so yeah, very, very familiar with it. But I can say freely that First Guaranty Bank supports Southeastern. So again, if any time you want to get together, lunch, come over, more than happy.
Big lunch, I'm coming.
All right, so the role, how am I doing on time? I probably blew past the 30 minutes. Okay. So the role of CIO in digital banking strategy. So vision, having a vision statement, a mission statement, having strategic objectives, having meaningful strategic objectives, not just going to Gartner and say, hey, give me some downloads and I'm just going to kind of rearrange some things, but really thinking through where the bank, like for us, where the bank is and where we want to go. And then how do we get there? When I started at First Guaranty Bank, it was about getting the foundation. I refer to it as an information or a technology stack, like a pyramid. The foundation, we have to make sure this is solid, because if we get up here and we didn't take care of the things down here, it's just going to crumble. So we're taking care of things like our infrastructure, making sure we have business continuity planning, disaster recovery, telephone systems, making sure that we're renegotiating our contracts, our IT contracts. And that's where vendor management comes into play, and it's so important because we just can't let it stagnate. Governance and risk management is an ongoing thing. It's a collaborative effort. And the more we get involved with the business side and the more we make them aware of things, I think the better the chance that we're going to have the proper governance and risk management. Digital transformation we touched on, but how to transform, paper, for example, stacks of paper. How do we get that into the system and convert it? How do we get all the FLAC files that we have out there in our storage areas and comb through all those and make sure we get rid of the redundancy? So therefore we have a smaller footprint. How do we set it up in a way that it's organized? That kind of stuff. How do we tackle our data retention policy, making sure that we're abiding by that? It just kind of blows the mind to think through those things. But as a part of the digital transformation and making sure that not only do we have technology, we're able to work with it in a productive way. Infrastructure and architecture. I pitched the idea of having a chief technology officer, so it's kind of a split brain. I'm the CIO. The CTO reports to me, but he has the full autonomy to do what he needs to do. He has 30 plus years experience as a managed service provider. We came from our professions before. If you didn't perform, you didn't eat. It was that real. So making sure we're doing the right thing with the bank, starting with the infrastructure, the architecture, bringing in, outsourcing is not a bad thing as long as we have a PMO or project management office. I stood that up. We have a VP of IT project management. So we're starting to make some traction. Data management and analytics, that's the one that I actually enjoy that more than anything. But first, making sure that we have our core banking system and it is set up properly, but taking it to the next level. And we're doing that in an effort for our customers. We want our customers to have what they need, and also those who work for the bank. When you start looking at transactions and you can derive little things from those, what people are spending money on. You look at the behaviors and an effort to help provide better services or products to the customers. Innovation and emerging technologies, IT never stops. If it just stopped for a few years, but it's like it never stops. It's just always changing and just trying to make sure that we have, but there's always the basics though. When you look at, starting with the infrastructure and how we have everything set up. Right now for us, it's automation. We're trying to get everything from the help desk to, and going back to the bots. I mean, that's something that we can use in IT as well as other departments. Vendor and partner management. I look at vendors as strategic partners. As a CIO, I don't like a vendor who's there to get a paycheck. It's give and take, and it's somebody who's going to spend the time to get to know us, and we'll do the same to get to the point where I can pick up a phone or a cell phone and get somebody immediately and say, we need help. And it's not about, oh, well, we're going to have to go off somewhere for a couple of days and come back and jack you up with some kind of quote. No, this is a partnership. And I learned that when I was a strategic sourcing manager at Amedisys in Baton Rouge. I did that for 2 years. When I was still holding on to my company, they said, go be a project manager, a friend of mine. I did that. I was an executive director of a PMO for a healthcare company, a SaaS provider. And then the other, I think of the military. I did a two-year tour there, and then I did a 2-year tour over at Amedisys. And we had a senior vice president, Cy Price, who came from IBM. He wanted us to have the best in vendor management. So I learned a lot. And I was in charge of probably 110 million a year in IT spend. So I learned there, the only one I couldn't get on a strategic partnership, and we're going to renegotiate things, is IBM. You kind of set it up, you're trying to talk to them, and they're like, that's funny, we're IBM. We don't negotiate. It's kind of like one of those movie lines, the price is the price, no negotiation. We're IBM, so that was but everyone else, yeah, you get it sometimes. But always look for that strategic partnership. There are times they're going to feel like this is too good to be true, and then it turns the other way. Talent management and development is also one of the bigger struggles. So it's nice to know we have a great university right down the street, packed full of bright minds in the computer science. You say data, is it data science or data? And we're always looking for interns. I'm going to put in a plug right there. We're always looking for interns to not only get experience, but to contribute. And these are paid positions, and we go through the process of getting them approved. But if you want to learn, there's a lot going on down the street. I guarantee that. So, but it's hard to find talent. Pay the right price, get it so that people feel like they're growing, they're not stagnating. Right now, everybody wants to be remote. Everybody wants a 6-figure salary and to do minimal work. Well, that doesn't. I can see that, the faculty here is like, student. We in security though, in seriousness, an analyst, they can start, they may start at 40, 45 a year. And within 2, 3, 4 years, they're over 100,000, depending on where they go. How do you keep people out of it?
So, question: at your bank, how do y'all go about the development portion of that? What mechanisms do you use to develop in-house?
It's about getting them when they're young, and investing in them as far as the professional development. We have people on the help desk. They move on to bigger things. Maybe, we have some that want to be a system engineer. I do skip level meetings every quarter. So I sit down and talk to them like, hey, what are your dreams? What do you want to do? What do you want to get out of this? They want to learn. Certifications. I think that's a good investment for the bank. And if we invest a significant amount of money, then there's a payback. Like, all right, once you get certified, then you're going to stay here at least a year. Something reasonable. But like our help desk folks, once we get the automation piece in place and we we empower our users to do more, then that frees them up to do things more meaningful, especially on the banking side. But training, we have an excellent training department. You know, I have a budget where I make sure people get the online training. I get a, you know, like I had ITIL training not too long ago. So we flew the instructor in and had a workshop at the bank so that we can hog all that person's time. I didn't want to share with other people, but with others, you know, we wanted, you know, we got 3 days instruction. The 4th day was a workshop. And that's my ask of them is if you go to training, you have to bring something back. You have to share with us what you learn. That's one of the requirements. Yes, sir.
For students that attend perhaps complete analysis degree, is there some type of work with them?
Not that I'm aware of, but I'm more than happy to, because I know there are people who want to move on to the advanced degrees. But I'm going to the Graduate School of Banking at LSU. That's a 3-year program. So they do provide those opportunities. But I'd love to talk more about it.
Program to go on from now and look at that. And I use
Okay. That sounds great.
feeding us for Dr. Asadi, Dr. Bonnie, Dr. Lane, and the rest of them.
Well, I'm a fan of academia, or you know, higher education. However, I'm not one to believe that because somebody has a degree, they know everything. You know, some people actually think that. To me, getting an undergraduate degree demonstrates discipline and that you have enough exposure where you can learn. You've committed enough time to a discipline. Unless like School of Nursing or accounting, it's a little more specific, or computer science even. So I value the bachelor and master's degree and so forth. But the certifications also have meaning, but that by itself is not everything. Nowadays, it's skills. So as you're going through to school, what are you learning to do? You're an expert in, you know, a certain programming language? I don't know. There's so many things that I can list out. But do you have I tell my son who just got out of the Army, and the Army, they have like over $80,000 they're paying for their education. I don't want to go to college. I said, go get like a license to like a plumbing or electrician or something where you have a skill where people are going to pay money for that. That's valuable versus you get a piece of paper and you weren't really into it, and you know, or people who they get their business degree, undergraduate, and then they get their MBA right after that without any experience. I don't understand. MBAs are usually for like a computer science person. I go out, get work experience, and I want to be a manager, go back and get their MBA. But I don't know. What do I know? Sometimes I can be opinionated, so don't mean to be offensive. Actually, so key challenges and solutions. I think we touched on some of the legacy systems and modernization. XML versus API, like from an integration standpoint, we're looking to use more APIs to integrate systems. But also, one thing, like when I first started, I asked for this. And I learned this in college as an MIS student and computer science. I asked for a data dictionary. I asked for the schema of the database, or schematic, you know, the ERD diagram or entity relationship diagram, and data flow. What's a data dictionary? And this is from the people that maintain the system. What's a data dictionary? I'm like, okay, let me take a shot at this. Field name, data type, length, definition. You got that? Oh, I don't know. We're going to have to go dig around for that. I'm like, oh my goodness. But just starting with, from an information standpoint, what do we have in our systems and how do they connect? And having that, having a map, so to speak. But for me, it's just, to move from legacy systems, we have to first know what's being stored and how it's set up, how it's configured. Integration of new technologies comes next. Talent shortage and skill gaps we touched on. That's a key challenge. Data management, analytics. I think we hit most of these. Change management. Can anybody guess why change management is a headache for a CIO?
Because different management manager has to be switch up the whole system.
Or people just make changes and don't communicate anything. And you get that call. We're down. What did you do? I don't know. I'll be there. So things like a change advisory board.
Well, people change. I mean, second this was just great operating system.
But it's part of ITIL having change enablement. I think they call it now instead of change management. That's ITIL 4. Making sure we have a change advisory board. You have your standard changes, I think it's standard, normal, and emergency changes. But having structure around it versus let's just push it out there, move on to the next thing. Organizational resistance, that's another one, because people, speaking of change, they resist change. So it never stops having to get out there and explain what we're doing and to be able to, bring them to the better, the land of milk and honey. We're heading there. Trust me. But sometimes I feel like they're just wandering around the desert and we're not going anywhere. But, I resist change if I don't know why we're doing things. I like to know why. Let's see. Future of digital banking. I know I put a lot into this slide deck, so I was like, all right, let me just put a lot of different things we can talk about. But I think I touched on most of this stuff. If there's anything that you want to go back to, just let me know. Yes, sir. Okay, so like I'll use MuleSoft as an example.
Also, it's not like to India.
Well, they use people that are in, for example, Venezuela or India, or we have people across the globe, and but they'll outsource, and then you find out how much these companies pay. Because there was one we're talking one day, I think it was one of them in Venezuela. How much do you get paid? Because I know what the rates are. Like, wow, it's a lot of money. How much do you think he gets paid? And he's an architect. He's an information architect for an advanced system that his company's making a lot of money on. How much do you think he makes? $24,000. $24,000. So I'm like, all right, we'd like to get you and pay you 4 times that. But so outsourcing to us, we're dealing with a company where we're using their product. They provide the team to get it up and running. We shadow the team. We do all the documentation. And then at some point, we're going to transition. We're going to take that talent in-house because it's just not sustainable financially. Short-term gains, I think, knowing where we're going, where we're getting at. And that's why it's important for IT to be in touch with the business side. Because when you can show how you're impacting the bottom line, that's where you get people's attention. Then the ask is not so bad if you show that, yeah, but this is going to help generate revenue, or this is going to help cut costs. Right. Another, so did that answer like the outsourcing thing? So having a vendor manager that can help us first vet the vendors or suppliers. So they go through a vetting process, make sure they SOC 2 compliance, all the things they look for from a compliance standpoint. Are they financially sound, meaning that they're not going to go out of business next year and they're left hanging? Making sure that the people working for them are cleared, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very involved. But from a project management standpoint, outsourcing is not a bad thing, but you have to justify it because obviously it's more money versus staffing it in-house. But good question. So I'm just going to keep it on the question slide. Are there any other questions you all have? Yes.
What did you do like before? I guess you said you ran a business. What kind of business did you run?
I ran an IT service management, or I guess an MSP, managed service provider. And I got back to security because that's what I did in the Navy. When I retired from the Navy in 2006, and I was here in 2004, actually, I think I helped you write the first information assurance. We put that together, and then Higginbotham was involved. I mean, he reviewed it and everything and got that introduced. So, I mean, security was still new. So getting out at that point, it just wasn't, you know, you had to look really hard to find something. So I went to, I worked for a company, Transformix. I don't know if you heard of Transformix in Baton Rouge. I was the VP of operations, but it was really small, not a lot of money. Went to this, as an MSP, started my own business. I had a contract for Brian Harris Auto Group, so we maintained all their networks and everything. My mistake is I went too hard for government contracting. So I did, as a subcontractor, we did work with Booz Allen and SAIC. I tried for a few things, never won anything. So I overextended myself on that front. And, but I went to Amedisys as a sourcing manager. And then I was an executive director for a project management office at EQ Health Solutions in Baton Rouge. They're a software as a service provider. We did care coordination, population management. And I went back to Transformix as the VP of cybersecurity. We're a managed security service provider. And then I transitioned to the bank. Because they got acquired. And in life, you know how, Lord, what am I supposed to do? And nothing. And then all of a sudden I had a recruiter call me. I said, hey, I got an opportunity in Hammond. And interviewed, and I'm here at the bank.
Yeah, I have another question. So you mentioned the cloud. We definitely need data. So
We are in the cloud. We have things on-prem. We have 2 data centers. We have one in Hammond and another one up in, well, we have our AS400 system is up in West Monroe. And then we have Vandy does maintains other servers. Right. It's
something you mentioned.
It's in Bossier. Actually, no, it's in Bossier City. Sienna, my brain doesn't work as fast. Bossier City, and then we have here our main office. And then we have our AS400, the band systems with Fisk, West Monroe.
Do you feel safe?
I never feel safe, but I've never been too comfortable. But we're looking. I think it's a mix. It's kind of a mixed environment. You go cloud where you can't save money, and then there's some things you just have to, I think, retain. How do you explain to your customer? Well, the eggs in one basket. That basket has a hole in it. It had a big old ransomware hole in it. But it happens.
That was a big.
It happens. Look, I don't make fun of any, no, in all seriousness, it can happen to anybody, really, under the right conditions. But there's more to come on that. Yes, ma'am.
Since very background in the field, what do you see like being common, like weird term rights and changing from myself? They're like work talents. What do you kind of see the trends are for job careers?
That's a good question, and it's hard to say, because, I mean, I guess we have an industry here that you have the typical jobs and plants, and healthcare seems like there's always, you know, the healthcare industry is always, I think you see all over the place outside of Louisiana. I know that I used to be at the incubator over at LSU, and they were trying to, and also workforce development with the state. I was trying to hire vets, you know, kind of get something going there, and never do that. That's a very good question. I don't know if I have a good answer for it. It seemed like we had at one point a lot of incentives in Louisiana from the movie industry to even technology. And I don't know where we are now with tax credits and the assistance. And that was a part of the tech park that was asked if I had, hey, I had a piece of software I want to develop. Well, you do your tour with the angel investors and the venture capital flows, and then sometimes it can get funded in other ways, but I had a lot of ideas, but nothing really got off the ground. It seems like banking is the finance industry is really good, but nowadays, who knows? I wish I had a better answer. Yes.
No, you mentioned earlier that I are actually focused on certain certifications. What are those types of certifications?
Certifications. I think the basic three is CompTIA, A+, Network Plus, Security Plus. So you get desktop, basics, operating systems, printers, all that stuff, into networking, and the Network Plus specializing in that, so at least you have the basic understanding of networking. And then Security Plus, then get into more details about security. And then you go through all that and demonstrate that you're proficient and you can learn. It's just a lot of things are unique to the environments. We like to standardize, but there's always the nuances of everyone's organization. Those I would start with. And then somebody who feels like, I want to be more networking, well, Cisco shop will get you CCNA, CCNP. And then as far as the help desk, I mean, the Microsoft certifications, anything cloud is, I think, has a big future. Yes.
What are the main differences between everything from your side versus whatever bank? Like the CIO may use kind of that bigger bank wall for no things so necessarily. What would be your reason?
And I can only speculate because I've not worked for a larger bank. The larger banks usually have bigger budgets. But I have off to our executive team and board, they are investing in technology. And the strategy is to grow. They go from $3 billion assets to 5 to 10. And that's merger and acquisition. That's being able to assess banks quickly, make the right decisions, and then at some point merge the banking systems to bring them together. That's a lot going on. I mean, identifying the two environments, the mapping of the fields, we got a lot of stuff in between for growth. But the larger ones, I can't really, again, I can only speculate with those CIOs are going through. I know that their budgets are incredible. There's one bank, I forget which one. I would think of America.
Well, it's possible.
Yeah. Yeah, they are definitely vulnerable. But they had one of them, their budget was unlimited. They didn't have the numbers. Wow. But a lot, we are a community bank, so we're a little different. As the name suggests, we're more
connected with our surroundings. We're here to be more person to person. The larger banks, I can't really say. I can make stuff up and make it sound really good. I think though there's a common denominator. We're all dealing with the same problem, one way or another, just at a much bigger scale. But when it comes to getting into the asset that I mentioned, information, really maximizing the usefulness of the return on that. That's where you get into the data science, I guess, analytics, and then at some point, the artificial intelligence. So as they can pick up all the different patterns of data, bring that back, decision makers, they can think, okay, well, if we offer this product instead of the other, then we make it more buying from the customers. Or if we can get online deposits or online banking up and we're moving into the market, then that's probably one of the quicker ways to get people to enroll with the bank. But that's where the guys and the gals on the banking side, that's where they come into play. So my goal is to help bring technology, put it down as quick as we can, and then that's what we're learning as much as I can. The banking side. Good question. So always a question of talking to people involved with experience in the banking industry. Sometimes that we face is a CS bank. They also have the problem that our computer is doing too long. And we don't like root policies that lock us down and can't solve other ones. But I know banking might be different. How do you measure having secure endpoints for the people that work at your bank and also enabling them to do their job?
It's another question. When I transitioned from the security side to the CIO role, and then the CISO we have right now, CIO makes codependent, banking dependent, and he's very good at security. So he and I think a lot alike. And that is, and I used this line many years ago with somebody, I won't mention his name, but he's going on. I mean, his favorite response was no. And somebody had to do something, like, no, and he was the CIO. No, I said, no, sometimes the greatest risk of an organization is you. Tell them no all the time. Security should not, I mean, because the greater risk is that we can't provide services to our customers. Everything's so locked down, people can't do their jobs. That's not what security is supposed to be. So where they start earning their paycheck is looking for innovation, coming up with solutions that can enable versus disable. Yeah. But so at the bank, the FDIC, and looking at all the control requirements, it's fairly straightforward. When I was in healthcare, it was worse, in my opinion, but it's all pretty much the same.
Is it just HIPAA? Just HIPAA?
Well, HIPAA is still kind of non-prescriptive, so you get into, like, iTrust takes a lot of different regulations and standards and everything else, and there's a construct of maybe 1,000 security, physical, administrative, stuff. And we go, I would go through all this with our clients. As a SaaS provider for the company I work for, they did not want to do things for obvious reasons. So we always find hub and beyond. But there's a common denominator where, okay, if you're hitting these, then you should be pretty good. And that's where somebody with experience and someone who knows what they're doing, get past all the nonsense. It's, what does it say of a security person when you lock everything to your point? Lock everything down. And I guess it really makes their job easier if everyone else is smarter. I don't think that's right. So, like, for example, we use Zscaler for web building. And, there are sites that are, people have to get to different locations or different websites to do their job. And instead of locking everything down and wasting a lot of time with people putting in requests to get to a website, we were able to create the right policy where, in effect, relax it without compromising security. Or, we have multi-factor authentication. I work somewhere where you had to re-authenticate like every 5 minutes. It's like, that's not very productive. How about once in the morning and then after 4 hours and you're done? As far as, duo is that we use for the multi-factor. But I believe that somebody worth anything is going to take a look at all this stuff and make sure that everybody has to do their jobs and not let the locker.
And I have one more question.
Sure.
The students, how much does the communication soft skill, how does that really play into your profession and the people underneath you? How often, how much do you use public speaking, writing, paperwork with regulations and assessments? Like, one of the things smart for us, we teach code, right? And
Right.
How much do you need more than code?
Oh, you need a lot more. I think the school struggle with today. I have 5 kids, so I've gone through one more I have my 4th is graduating this year from high school, and I have my 5th is 14, starting high school. But critical thinking is being able to communicate verbally and indirectly, to your point. So that you kind of get that rhetorical phase where I can express myself in writing, verbally, but professional. And so I think it's very important. I don't know if you heard that Saturday Night Live skit many years ago, that the IT support guy, where he comes in, he's like, he's kind of moves, shoves over the person who needed help. And already he's up there fixing it, probably didn't really do what they wanted or needed.
Company computer?
At some point, I forget. But, I mean, I think most people in technology, just in my experience, are introverted. They're not very outgoing. I'm an introvert by nature. We had to do that in Martinsburg when I was in grad school.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm introverted. But I learned how to be extroverted. I learned how to get in front of people. I was trying not to think about, overthinking things. But it's important, even as a help desk support person, if you can't communicate with the person calling and asking for help, well, emails, being able to express yourself in a professional way. Use spell check. We have Grammarly, so there's no excuse. Use it. No shame. But just, get someone to proofread it. Once you send it, it's gone. Dan, it's done. You didn't do it, take the time. There's so many rules for communicating. And that's just, you don't do it if you're feeling emotional, don't send an email. Trying to argue something in the email is not good. Learning how to be professional. So I like to have fun where I'm at, where everyone's approachable, but be professional. And courteous. Somebody needs help, make sure that you all have a good way to help. So I think your concern is very important. There's some people that get through school and I don't know how they get through, and they lack the basic skills.
So I'm going to ask one more question to get the desk there. Dr. Rossi, but I'm really enjoying the talk. It's a compliment. Suppose we have a student, like his name is CIO. And he has really good grades, and he's going to be, what do you look for when you interview somebody for your area?
Somebody has a good resume. They have to have a good resume, or usually doesn't get past HR. Unless you know somebody says, hey, I got a resume, I need to look.
What do you mean good resume?
A good resume is something where everything should be on one page. You have a short form. Everything you want to say one page. If there's like a 5-page resume, it usually doesn't get read. Unless they're desperate. All right, I'm going to read everything.
And making sure the resume speaks to the position. You may have all this experience, and there are parts of it where you can apply, but make sure it speaks to that. Versus, I'm just going to use our resume sprayed all over the place to have to get a job. I think, following up professionally without being calling every other hour, hey, look at my resume. But no, and I think, more specific to this, I don't mind looking at resumes, and I'll make sure he's the right person. We're always looking for talent. I think somebody who shows that they work during college as an intern. The right intern position, I think says a lot. Nah, I'm just gonna wait. I like to worry about that. But as an intern, you get exposure. And sometimes you get in some real specific situations that can tie back into the West. I mean, good grades, but somebody has a 4.0, that's not everything. I had a 4.0 that down to the last minute, I thought I was going to fail one of the classes and get a C or whatever. 4.0, but I was excited and I took a breath and I thought, okay, now what? But okay, GPA is important, but I think it's somewhere between 2.8, 3.0, 3.8. Sometimes a 4.0 goes bad. One of those. Looks smart. No common sense. No offense.
Yeah, I was hoping to really good.
It's him. It's him.
I'm a bad student. Never get my word.
No, but I mean, also fire in the belly, assertiveness, when you shake somebody's hand, look them in the eye, basic stuff, old school. When you talk to somebody, I look down. You don't know something, say, hey, I don't know. I'll look. I'll go find out. But I think I know there are growing opportunities at First Guaranty. We're acquiring 4 banks in the Houston area. We're looking at 3 or 4 other opportunities. So they're in growth mode. So with that, we're going to get talent. So did you have, are you computer science?
Yeah, I'm computer science.
Do you specialize, like, okay, I'm more of a programmer or?
Well, I specialize in C. Well, I try to pick up extra skills, but I usually specialize in data science. So just trying to see if there's trends in data, make a model.
Then I'm interested.
Well,
You had me at trends and data. I don't know if that's a card.
Oh, we're getting down there. While we're talking about it, we're talking about. You have to ask me first.
There you go.
Sean's giving the card to him. He graduated with computer science.
How did this floor get?
Now, my cell phone is that I'm that's not, I don't have the same cell phone, but send me an email.
Hey, I was in that class. I'm the 4.0.
That is not me. It is not me.
See, but I put out there, I had a 4.0. I thought you heard it.
well, take it like I don't need more.
I got the D.
I don't know about that one.
When I first went to Southeastern here in 1985, graduated high school, everything high here in my to communications, theater, algebra. Other classes. I had like a 1.6 or 8.9. I took all the blow-off classes. My dad should have been the work. I'm not paying for this, so I'm going to be a recruiter. Yours, take me away. Don't take that literally. I took the ASVAB. I love that. I got like an 86 or 87. So,
What is that? What is that?
ASVAB, it's a military aptitude test.
Is that 100?
I don't know if it's out of 100, but I qualified for everything except nuke, or nuclear program.
And I'm glad I didn't go through that because I would feel that. for sure.
You don't know that it's.
Yeah. More.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Huh? Which one? That is. They gave us work. One thing I changed, they used to have work smartphones. So I had to carry 2 phones. I'm like, no, BYOD, hello. So I gave them back their phone. So I'm back to, that's my phone number. Cool.
Right now. Oh, not. Oh, well, not right now. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for coming. I want to say thank you to our virtual audience as well as our in-person audience. I think that was very enlightening and it was very broad.